becoming a vessel of true love. So, yes, let's dive in. So, I want to begin just reading True Parents' words. It's basically having a little bit of 100K together, I think, is really valuable, right? Because it connects us to True Parents' words and what is actually really important in life. And so, True Father says here in this text, God wanted to fulfill the ideal of true love in the family of Adam and Eve and establish the kingdom of peace and unity in heaven and on earth through the multiplication of their descendants. From Adam and Eve as the starting point, the pure, true love, true life, and true lineage of God were supposed to spread out horizontally in their descendants. Then Adam and Eve naturally would have become the true parents, true teachers, true owners, and true king and queen, creating the kingdom of peace and unity based upon the true lineage. If the fall had not occurred, there would be no need for religion. Holy and pure sons and daughters would simply be born through the use of the reproductive organs. That is where true love comes from. That is where true love, true life, and the true sons and daughters of the true lineage, the liberated sons and daughters whom Satan cannot accuse, come from. The reproductive organs are the palace of true love, true life, and true lineage. They are the most precious things. If they disappeared, heaven and earth would disappear. Without them, God's ideal, God's family, and God's will could not be achieved. They are the source of the perfection of everything. True parents are the owners of true love. True parents are the king and queen of love. We have lost that most precious true love. The question is how we can recover it. True parents, true love, true life, and true lineage form a realm that Satan cannot touch, no matter how much he tries. Humanity must become attuned to God's will for eternity. God and all people must constantly maintain an eternal relationship as subject partner and object partners with true love at the core. Unless we can arrive at this goal, we cannot maintain a life centered on true love, which is God's ideal of creation. This is the principle. No one can deny it. This is why we absolutely need true parents. All right. So this is the core. I feel like this is the core of True Parents teachings. You know, True Parents are here to liberate us and to help us connect back to God's love. And a way or model or structure that they have created to do that is through the blessing, right? And so as I do these sermons, I tend to go personal because that's how I relate to my faith. And so I'm thinking about my blessing personally. You can think about your blessing, or you know, if you're aspiring to the blessing, or but this is the model that True Parents set up for us so that we could restore true love and reconnect to God. And so Gustav and I, we got blessed 7 years ago now. Um, and on the second picture is when we had our legal marriage. So 7 years, that's like the foundational phase, like foundation, growth, perfection, right? So we have completed the foundation in our blessing and marriage. And now we're officially in the growth stage, which is exciting. And I feel like this is a really good way to look at it because when you first get blessed, like you're excited and you're in love and oh, I love this person and they love me and it's incredible. And then you create a life together. You have kids. We have 2 kids. And then you also start to understand, or you start to experience the challenges of the blessing and of marriage and of being in relationship with somebody. And it's such a beautiful thing because it's like a training ground, right? Our blessing and marriage is a training ground, and it allows us to face ourselves. I think that's the main almost battle or uh thing that happens in the blessing and marriage, which is great because when we face ourselves and we get to see our inner demons, our inner blocks, and our limitations when it comes to love, then we have to find a way to go beyond that. We have to find a way to connect with God, with your parents, and with our growth. And so I feel like, there's a stage in marriage, and I think that we're in that stage now where we have to grow. Like, it's not in the first stage, you get to know each other and you understand what it's like to work as husband and wife and man and woman in a relationship, and two different personalities and this kind of thing. But then it gets to a stage where you have to also grow. You can't just stay where you're at, right? So it's kind of like, you know what you're dealing with, you know who you are, you know who the other person are and their challenges, your challenges, but also it can't stay there. So that's the beauty of our blessing, is that we're connected to your parents and we have them as our role models. And they are true people who are completely connected to God's love all the time. They understand things from God's point of view, from God's perspective, and that's how they live their lives. And so that's why it's important for us to model them, to not, get stuck in our own patterns and ways of being. So I think I want you all to reflect on where you're at, especially if you're blessed, in your blessing, and how you're supporting each other's growth and your own growth as well. True parents are teaching us to love unconditionally. And I think all of us have heard that, listening and reading True Parents' words, of like challenging us to love unconditionally and live for the sake of others. But that does not mean doing something and expecting something in return, right? It's actually a challenging thing to live by, because we're not perfect people. But so like in the household scenario, this a challenge might be like, oh, I cleaned the house today, now you should cook my favorite meal tonight. Or an example, or I took care of the kids all day, so you owe me something, you owe me a spa day. But that's not how true love works. That's not unconditional love, right? Or like living for the sake of others is not doing something nice for somebody else but being bitter about it and doing it begrudgingly. So how can we find a way to do things with joy, to really feel God's love in our lives, and in how we act and how we move and how we are in our relationship and how we are toward other people? And when we think about the fall, we know about the fall of our first human ancestors, Adam and Eve. And sometimes it feels like a story, or we think of it as a story of something that happened in the past. And we think of it as, yeah, this happened a long time ago, and this is why things are a mess now. And, this is why we are not connected to God's love. And we are being restored by true parents because of true parents. And this is all true. But also, the fall is not just something that happened a long time ago, but it's actually something that happens on a daily basis. It's actually something that we have, or that we do every day on a moment to moment basis, because it's about failing to see from God's perspective. It's whenever we fail to see from God's perspective, and when we fail to see someone else from God's perspective, or even ourselves. So how can we see things from God's perspective? So the question is, how do we return to God's love on a moment to moment daily basis? How do we do that? We have received the blessing, and that is a path. That's the path that we're on. We're restoring the lineage, but it's not enough. We also still, every day, every moment, have to work on ourselves to stay connected with God's love, right? So I want to read the last passage that I read just before, which says, true parents are the owners of true love. True parents are the king and queen of love. We have lost that most precious true love. The question is how we can recover it. True parents, true love, true life, and true lineage form a realm that Satan cannot touch, no matter how much he tries. Humanity must become attuned to God's will for eternity. God and all people must constantly maintain an eternal relationship as subject partner and object partners with true love at the core. So unless we can arrive at this goal, we cannot maintain a life centered on true love. We cannot maintain a life centered on true love, which is God's ideal of creation. And this is the principle. No one can deny it. This is why we absolutely need true parents. And what are true parents? What is true parents? True parents are Samye Moon and Hak Ja Han Moon, right? They are our role models. They have paved the way. They have set the conditions. They represent the ideal human being, the what God intended at the beginning. But it's not just about them as people. True parents is also what we're aspiring to become. It's actually our destiny to become true parents ourselves. So when we think about it that way, of us becoming owners of true love, of us becoming the king and queen of love, that is what it's about also, right? So I wanted to end with actually like an experience. What I want you to do now is, keeping in mind what I just said and what the sermon is about, which is becoming a vessel of true love and connecting with God. I want you all to close your eyes and put your hands on your hearts. And let's breathe 3 cleansing breaths. Breathe in and breathe out through your nose. And again, breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. And now I want you to think about somebody that you love unconditionally. It could either be somebody that you love, or it can be an experience that comes up for you that's very clear of when you felt really, really loved. Maybe you think of your children or a parent or a grandparent. I can share with you that what comes up for me is the moment when Gustavo and I went to the ultrasound to be when I was first pregnant with my first child, and looking at that image of the ultrasound and understanding that, oh, like there's life, there's a baby growing. And I was so happy and my cheeks were hurting because I was smiling so much. So that's the image and the feeling that comes to mind for me when I felt so much love. So what is that for you? And I want you to keep your hands on your heart and close your eyes and focus on that memory or that person. Focus on it. And amplify the feeling of love and joy that this stirs in your heart and in your body. Try to amplify it in your body so that you can feel the feeling spreads to every corner, every crevice of your body. Continue to breathe into this. Deep breaths. And now let this feeling, focus on the feeling and not the person or memory itself, but just the feeling of love. That love that evoked for you in your body and the joy that you're feeling. Just focus on that so that the image, the person, the experience fades and you're left with that feeling, and let that be experienced in your body. And now let it actually exude out from you into the room that you're in, the energy that you have activated. Let it spread from your body out into the room, the space that you're in right now. And know that this is love, and this is God's love. And know that unconditional does not mean that you love from an empty place, but it's being able to love no matter the conditions. That's what unconditional love is. And when we recognize that this is something that we can activate inside of ourselves, that feeling, and that makes such a difference in how we respond to other people, that makes all the difference, because everybody's looking for love. But if we're in relationship with other people, which we are all the time, and we're always expecting love, then nobody has love to give. And that's the state of the world. This is why we need true parents. This is why we need to open ourselves up to God. This is a natural thing of how God has created us, that we all have access to his love. So I hope that you still stay with that feeling, continue to stay with the feeling, and let it amplify in the room. Take a deep, deep breath from the center of your body, from the base of your spine, all the way through the central channel, through your heart space, and out through the nose. And again. And again. You can open your eyes now. And I hope that this was a powerful experience for you. And you can do this, with music, if you like. But this is something that's always available. God is always available, and God's love is always available, right? And so, in relationship, we are sometimes pulled away from this feeling of love. It happens a lot, right? Like there can be a comment that wasn't even meant to be mean, but you experience it as hurtful. And then we go back into the protective side of our personality, which contracts and which makes us not give, which makes us not be generous. But that's the fallen world. That is not God's ideal. That is not what God wants. This is not what God can relate to even. So when we can realize every moment that happens, that actually there's a way for us to get back to that feeling of love, then that's how God can live in our bodies and in our activities, but also in our families and in our communities. So yes, thank you. That is my sermon for today.